Okay, so I've just spent some time with this research on well-being in academia, and wow,
Yeah,
it's a lot to take in.
it
I'm
is.
excited about how relevant this all is to my work,
Hmm.
but I'm also feeling a little overwhelmed, I have to say.
I hear you.
Like, how am I going to make sense of all
Yeah,
this?
right.
But I guess that's why we do these deep dives, right?
That's it.
So today we are going to tackle the PERMA model.
Okay.
We'll look at what it is and what it could mean for all of you listening out there for your academic careers.
I think it's a really important topic. It's a pretty dense topic, but it's really exciting to see this shift in psychology, like
Mhm.
moving away from just fixing what's broken
Right.
to like actively building a flourishing life, and especially in a demanding field like academia.
Yeah, it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving.
Exactly.
But before we really dive into the PERMA model itself, can you give us some context?
Yeah.
Like, where did this idea come from?
Absolutely. So PERMA comes from the field of positive psychology, which, to put it simply, studies what makes life worth living.
Right.
It looks at the strengths and virtues that enable people and communities to thrive.
Okay.
And it's important to note that the PERMA model itself isn't some rigid checklist.
Yeah,
It's more like a descriptive tool.
gotcha.
It helps us understand the elements that contribute to well-being, so you can use it to kind of figure out what your own recipe for a fulfilling academic life looks like.
Okay, I like this recipe analogy.
Yeah.
So what are the ingredients that we're working with here?
All right.
Can you break down this acronym for us?
So PERMA stands for positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment.
Okay.
And a key point here is that each of these elements matters on its own.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you need to max out all five to be successful or happy.
Right, so it's more about recognizing that each element adds something unique
Yeah,
to your well-being.
exactly. Some academics might naturally be drawn to, say, accomplishment,
Mhm.
while others find deeper meaning in their relationships with students.
Yeah.
It's about understanding how each piece fits into your own personal puzzle.
Okay, so it's about balance and individual needs.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack these elements one by one,
Okay.
starting with P, positive emotion.
All right.
So is this just about like slapping on a smile and pretending everything's great?
Not quite. It's about cultivating genuine positive emotions about the past, present, and future.
Okay.
But it's also acknowledging that we all have different baselines.
Mm-hmm.
Some people naturally experience more joy and optimism,
Right,
while others might need to work a bit harder to cultivate those feelings.
right. Like
Yeah.
some of us are naturally more inclined to see the sunny side of things,
Yeah.
while others are, shall we say, more realistically minded.
Uh-huh.
But the research did mention some practical ways to boost those positive emotions.
Yeah.
They talked about things like practicing gratitude for a past mentorship that really helped you,
Right.
or using mindfulness techniques to savor a quiet moment on campus, even
Mhm.
amidst the chaos.
Absolutely. Those are
Oh,
great
wow.
examples. Yeah. And they highlight how positive emotions aren't just about big, happy events.
Yeah.
They can come from appreciating the small things, too, and choosing to focus on the good.
Okay.
But even with that said,
Yeah.
positive emotions are just one part of the PERMA model.
Right.
If you're constantly chasing fleeting happiness, you might miss out on deeper, more lasting forms of well-being that come from the other elements.
So positive emotions are important,
Yeah.
but they're not the whole story. To truly thrive, we need to engage with the other pieces of the puzzle,
Yes.
which brings us to E, engagement.
Okay.
So what does that look like in the academic world? I mean, is it just about showing up for class and committee meetings?
Definitely not.
Okay, good.
Think back to a time when you were completely absorbed in a task,
Mm-hmm.
where time just seemed to fly by.
Yeah.
Maybe you were writing a lecture that you were really excited about,
Yeah.
or deeply engrossed in a research problem.
Right.
That feeling, that's what we call flow.
Okay.
And it's a key ingredient in engagement. Oh, I know that feeling. Well, it's like
Yeah.
everything else fades away and you're completely in the zone.
Yes.
But can you really experience flow in academia with all the deadlines,
Yeah.
all the paperwork, and let's be honest,
Yeah.
sometimes tedious tasks?
You absolutely can.
Okay.
And what's fascinating is that research has shown that professors who experience flow,
Mm-hmm.
particularly during their teaching,
Yeah.
report higher job satisfaction and overall well-being.
Interesting.
It's about finding those activities that challenge you,
Right.
that utilize your skills and allow you to learn and grow, even if they're not always glamorous.
Yeah.
It could be mentoring a student,
It's okay.
collaborating on a grant proposal,
Right.
or even, yes, prepping for that lecture you're passionate about.
So it's about finding those pockets of engagement, those moments where you lose yourself in the work.
Yes.
And you feel that sense of energy and focus.
Exactly.
I like that. Now let's move on to our relationships.
This one seems pretty intuitive, especially in academia where collaboration is so crucial.
You're right. Relationships are fundamental to human well-being.
Yeah.
And in a field like academia, where we're constantly exchanging ideas and working together, they're even more important.
Yeah.
But it's not just about networking or superficial connections.
Right.
It's about cultivating those genuine, supportive relationships with colleagues, mentors, and even students.
It makes you wonder, like, what's the point of celebrating a research breakthrough alone in your office, right?
Exactly.
Sharing those wins with colleagues who understand the struggle, who can truly appreciate the significance of your findings.
Yeah.
That's where the real joy is.
You got it. And you know what's really interesting is that research suggests
What's that?
that strong relationships can actually buffer against stress. Academics who have a supportive network tend to experience less burnout.
Interesting.
And are better able to cope with the inevitable setbacks that come with a career in higher education.
So relationships aren't just nice to have.
Right.
They're actually crucial for navigating the challenges of academia.
Yes.
They amplify the positives, and they help us weather the storms.
Exactly.
I love that. Now, speaking of deeper meaning, let's dive into the M of PERMA.
Okay.
I know a lot of folks in academia are driven by a sense of purpose.
Yes.
But how does this fit into the model specifically?
It's a great question and one that's particularly relevant to academics.
Yeah.
The research emphasizes that meaning often comes from feeling like you belong to something larger than yourself. Like you're contributing to something bigger than your own individual goals.
Right.
And in academia, that can take many forms. You might find meaning in contributing to a body of knowledge through your research, or shaping future generations through your teaching, or maybe using your expertise to serve a specific community, or address like a pressing social issue.
It's about feeling like your work has an impact, that it matters in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly.
I think that resonates with a lot of people in higher education. What about you? What gives your work meaning?
For me, it's that feeling of empowering others to understand the world around them.
Okay.
Seeing my students develop their critical thinking skills and using their knowledge to make a difference, that's incredibly rewarding.
I get that. For me, it's those moments of discovery.
Yeah.
You know, those aha moments.
Yeah.
Whether I'm finally cracking a research problem or helping a student grasp a difficult concept.
Yeah.
It reminds me why I love what I do.
I love that.
That's a perfect segue into the final element of PERMA accomplishment.
Right.
This one's about striving for mastery and achievement.
Yes.
But here's the key.
Okay.
It's about doing those things for their own sake, not just for external validation.
Right.
I have a feeling some academics might be a little too familiar with this element.
Yeah.
With the constant pressure to publish, to secure grants, to get tenure.
Yeah.
It can feel like a never-ending race.
It's true. The academic world often places a heavy emphasis on accomplishment.
Right.
And sometimes that can lead to neglecting the other PERMA elements.
Yeah.
We might find ourselves sacrificing relationships, personal well-being, even the joy of the work itself, all in pursuit of that next publication or grant.
So how do we find that balance?
Right.
How do we strive for accomplishment without losing sight of the other ingredients that contribute to a fulfilling academic life?
That's the million-dollar question. And there's no easy answer.
Okay.
It starts with being mindful of your own values and priorities.
Right.
Are you chasing achievements that truly align with what matters to you?
Yeah.
Or are you caught up in a system that values certain metrics above all else?
Right.
The PERMA model encourages us to step back and ask ourselves, what does success really mean to me?
That's such an important point. And speaking of accomplishment in academia, it can take so many forms beyond just those traditional markers of success.
Absolutely. Accomplishment could be receiving positive student evaluations, presenting your research at a conference, mentoring a junior faculty member, or even mastering a new teaching technique.
Right. It's about recognizing those smaller wins along the way.
Yes.
Those moments that make you feel proud of the work you're doing, regardless of whether they're going to land you on some top 10 list.
Exactly.
And I think that ties back to the importance of all 5 PERMA elements working together.
Yeah.
You might experience a surge of positive emotion after achieving a significant milestone. But that feeling is likely amplified if you have supportive colleagues to celebrate with, right?
Exactly. And that sense of accomplishment might feel even more meaningful if it's aligned with your values. And it contributes to a larger purpose. It's about seeing the interconnectedness of these elements.
Right.
Recognizing that they all contribute to a more holistic sense of well-being.
Okay, so we've unpacked all 5 elements of PERMA.
We have.
But I'm curious, how does this actually play out in the real world of academia?
Right.
I mean, it's a demanding environment.
It is.
With high pressure to publish, to secure funding, and to teach effectively.
Yeah.
How do you cultivate well-being amidst all of that?
It's definitely a challenge, and there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Right.
But I think the PERMA model provides a valuable framework for navigating those challenges.
Okay.
For example, if you're feeling overwhelmed by your workload, you might consider how you can boost your engagement by focusing on tasks that utilize your strengths and provide a sense of flow, even if it's just for a short period each day.
Or if you're feeling isolated and disconnected, you might prioritize building relationships with colleagues or seeking out mentorship, maybe attending a departmental social event.
Yes.
Or grabbing coffee with a colleague you admire.
Exactly. It's about being proactive and intentional about cultivating all 5 elements of PERMA.
Okay.
Even in small ways. And it's not just about individual well-being either. When faculty and staff are thriving, it creates a ripple effect throughout the entire institution.
So a flourishing academic community benefits everyone.
Yes.
Students are more likely to thrive in a supportive and engaging learning environment.
Right.
Research is more likely to be impactful, and faculty and staff are more likely to be retained.
Exactly.
It's a win-win all around.
It is. And let's not forget the impact on attracting top talent to academia.
Oh, right.
When institutions prioritize well-being, it sends a powerful message to potential faculty and staff that they will be valued and supported. It shows that the institution cares about more than just their output, but about their overall well-being as human beings.
This is all making me think about my own journey in higher education. I've definitely had periods where I was so focused on achieving specific goals that I neglected other aspects of my well-being.
Looking back, I can see how that impacted my overall satisfaction.
And even my productivity, I was so caught up in the doing that I forgot about the being.
It's a common experience, and it highlights the importance of self-reflection and awareness. The PERMA model encourages us to ask ourselves, what brings me joy? What gives me a sense of purpose? What am I good at? And how can I use my strengths to make a difference?
It's about taking ownership of our own well-being.
Yes.
And recognizing that we have the power to create a more fulfilling and meaningful academic experience for ourselves and for those around us. It's about shifting our mindset, you know, from just surviving to actually thriving in academia. And recognizing that success isn't just about those external achievements, but also about cultivating a sense of inner well-being.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that we're whole people, not just machines for producing research and teaching.
Well said.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into PERMA and flourishing in higher education, what are some key takeaways you hope our listeners will remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is that well-being is multifaceted. It's not just about happiness or feeling good all the time. It's about cultivating those positive emotions, engaging in meaningful work, building strong relationships, finding a sense of purpose, and striving for accomplishment in a way that aligns with your values.
And remembering that there's no one right way to flourish.
Absolutely.
The PERMA model is a framework, not a formula. It's about understanding the different elements that contribute to well-being. And figuring out what works best for you for your individual needs and goals.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to experiment. Try new things. Explore different aspects of your work and connect with others who share your passions. You might be surprised at where you find those pockets of engagement and meaning.
Great advice. Now, before we go, I have to ask you one final question.
Sure.
If you could leave our listeners with one thought-provoking question to ponder as they continue their academic journey, what would it be?
That's a good one. I think I would ask, which element of PERMA are you most neglecting in your own academic life right now? And what's one small step you can take today to start cultivating it more intentionally?
That's such a great question to reflect on. And speaking of taking steps towards a more fulfilling academic career,
Yeah.
if you're feeling inspired to explore new opportunities, don't forget to check out academicjobs.com.
Right.
They have a wide range of exciting positions in various fields, so you might just find the perfect next step on your path to flourishing.
That's a fantastic resource. There are so many paths to explore in the world of higher education.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into flourishing in academia. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.